stress management. We're going to talk about how do we deal with stress on a day-to-day basis, and I'm going to talk about how I interact with clients and the techniques and different strategies that you can implement to manage stress. As we speak right now, I am currently working at the office. I'm going to do this short live stream to kind of talk about that. So, hey, if you're stressed out, let's talk about it. Let's discuss what that feels like. If you're in the chat and or you're watching right now, talk to me about and ask whatever questions. This is also can be kind of like a Q&A in which you can discuss how are you dealing with stress. Are you able to deal with stress? Some days are better than others. Let's kind of discuss that. What's up, K Business Channel? How you doing, player? So we're gonna discuss what that looks like. What does stress look like for you? Because stress can present itself in a variety of different ways. Everybody handles stress differently. What stresses you out may not stress out another person. There's not a one size fits all. Some strategies are more effective for some people and not as effective for others. So many times I see one of the biggest mistakes that I see on social media as it pertains to people creating videos on how to do this, or this is 5 ways for this, and there's 3 ways to handle this, and it's, these are the signs of this. I choose not to do a lot of videos like that unless I know without a shadow of a doubt, in me doing a cross analysis of on research and other clinicians, if I see similar markers, similar statements, I can kind of summarize them all together and say, okay, across the board, you'll hear so many therapists or so many clinicians talk about these 10 ways of doing one thing or handling this and handling that. As it relates to stress, there are a variety, there are an infinite amount of ways in which you can manage your stress day to day. For myself, some days are just better than others. Okay, some days are just better than others, and there are days when I am not handling stress at all. Yes, therapists are people, and like my brother said, K Business Channel, go for a walk, which can help you. Some people they don't want to walk. Some people say I want to run or I want to play video games. I like to write. I like to read. I like to play other different type of games, or I like to do puzzles. I like to talk. Talking to other people about your stress is therapeutic. Not necessarily just a therapist, but someone that you trust, someone that you respect. There's nothing wrong with you confiding in people about your stress. Now, 900 series Jordan says smoke a spliff with a cop. Okay, now I'm gonna be honest. I'm glad you stated that. I don't, as a therapist, recommend engaging in any type of recreational smoking of anything. Although there is evidence that these, and what I would say controversial ways of handling stress can be effective. However, being that some of these different tools or usage of these types of substances and so on, they can also bring about other issues. So I choose not to use smoking of anything as a positive means of dealing with stress. Because it also can be counterproductive to your health and cause other different mental or health related issues. How you doing, Stephanie? She says, I know someone who received a ketamine therapy. Now, it's funny that you brought about ketamine therapy. I'm going to say, Stephanie, that is controversial. I may need to do a video on that because there's still some things that I need to learn about ketamine therapy. I've never been trained, and I have never stepped in any professional environment that ketamine therapy was recommended. Okay. I'm not going to speak for or against it, but for myself, I would stray away and I would not recommend that. However, I've seen the first time I heard about ketamine therapy um, was on Facebook because I didn't know it existed. Now, um, there are people, you know, who engage um, in what would say not not I would say industry standard or recognized forms of treatment. I don't know enough about ketamine therapy to speak intelligently in detail about it, but what I do know about it is that I'm not seeing this as a standard way of dealing with any type of mental health issue. So if I don't see that in professional publishing content in literature, it's not institutional as far as academic. I'm not recommending it until I know that the FDA or let's say the American Psychological Association or any type of medical organization feels that this is reputable treatment. I'm not recommending it, and I understand that it's ketamine is is I think it's a hallucinant. It's uh, hallucinogenic, or it has hallucinogenic. It's kind of like an anesthetic type of substance or whatever that can cause people to feel a certain way. Again, I can't recommend that, but I may have to do a video on that and educate myself a little further. Stephanie also says I don't want to be rude to people who may be interested in it, but I think people see it as an easier than long term therapy. That's a problem, Stephanie. That's a problem, and so any type of substance is not going to be a cure, and therapy is for long term growth, and using any substance is not going to alleviate psychosocial issues and stressors that one experiences. Now, what it can do, it can put a band-aid on it. It could help you lower your anxiety, depression, and other particular symptoms and stress, but it doesn't cure that. So for people that think that, you know, it can be saying that it's easier than therapy, that's not always a good thing. Because what's easier doesn't always mean what's best. So give me a second, guys. I'll be right back because I'm still kind of doing some administrative things. I like to kind of, as I'm going live, take care of some administrative things. I'm scanning something right quick. Just give me a second and I will be right back. Okay. So I appreciate you saying that, Stephanie, because you gave me an idea, and I actually listed talking about ketamine, the effects of that and that type of therapy, but I don't see the literature, so I can't recommend that if I don't see the literature as it being a industry standard. Um, to me, um, I don't understand the risk. I think there's some clinical risk. And also, I'm not a medical professional. I don't I can't prescribe or recommend medicines. That's unethical. That's outside of my scope of training. So what I definitely would say, Stephanie, if there are master's level or anyone that is short of having a medical degree or a psychiatrist, they should not be recommending anybody to take any type of substance, herb, or anything else unless they have that formal training. That's my perspective, and that's how I operate as a clinician. I have never recommended anyone to utilize any type of substance, any type of vitamin, anything that you can put and consume in your body. I have never recommended anybody to do any of those things outside of you seeking the proper professional that can route you into the right direction. But that is interesting, and I may do some more research and talk more intelligent about that over the weekend. My opinion, shout out to my opinion. She says online can be beneficial, but I believe serious issues must be dealt with IRL in real life with a therapist specialized in your needs. Stephanie says, you want a MyD just for this live? It's a vertical. Unfortunately, with the vertical, I may start giving people mod sticks, but the vertical, I don't know how to operate doing all the mod, and all that stuff. Oh, I can add you as a mod. Let me add you as a mod. Okay. I'll give my opinion a mod too. There it goes. Okay. So there you go. You all are mods. So, I mean, don't you all know, guys, that there have been situations in where therapists have gotten in trouble for wanting people to use X pills in therapy and recommending stuff like that for relationship therapy, for sex and things like that. There's all kinds of unethical things, and that people can recommend. I've known therapists to get in trouble for even recommending and saying something about using CBD oil or any type of cannabis related substance. Things we can't recommend that. I've known, I had a client, the worst scenario, like I had a client that basically had a psychiatric break from the use of Kush. This happened probably, and this was probably my most, and I had several clients that I know that actually end up having a psychiatric break due to the side effects of Kush. But one of the worst scenarios I had a guy that was hospitalized for about 2 weeks due to smoking Kush, and it caused all kinds of mental and physical related problems as their reaction to it. So I'm not inclined. I kind of stay away from anything that can be deemed as potentially medical related. I only want to deal with the verbal exchange, the cognitive, the mental processing of things, the verbal interaction between the client and the therapist. Theory. I'm sticking with theory. I'm not getting into all this. Anything that someone has to consume, I'm not willing to have those conversations. Okay? But I do appreciate you for bringing that up and you giving me an idea to talk about, because I didn't learn about that until actually on Facebook. I saw a host, and I'm talking about at least and I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I saw at least several or more every day of people who were recommending this type of treatment. Yes, I am ASDF. Yes, I am a therapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I saw several, and I say several, very eye-catching commercials and ads that were recommending people use that. Now, far as I know, it can be effective, but I don't know. And I can't speak on the efficacy of that treatment. I'm definitely not educated enough on it, and one of the reasons why I'm not educated on it, and it's not really a huge interest of mine because I stray away from anything. If anybody asks me, well now the only thing that the furthest I'm going to go is as it relates to nutrition. There's certain, like say for instance, I encourage kids who have behavioral disorders such as ADHD, ADD not to eat sweets. There is medical literature that talk about certain how your diet can affect your behavior, things of that sort. I am willing to talk about some level of health education, as it is adjacent to my field as it relates to the illness or the behavioral issues that person may exhibit. Okay, but I'm not really willing to go into depth into all of those different things. Okay, Trinity, I'm gonna make you a mod too, Queen. There you go. I'm giving out mod sticks today. I didn't even realize that you could give out mod sticks on your vertical because I usually don't focus on when I'm going live like this. I don't usually focus on the chat as much because I'm trying to create an essence of just being in a work environment and conversing with you all about therapy related issues. Okay, so if you're stressed, guys, talk to me in the chat about when you're stressed, what causes you to be stressed, your inability to deal with it. And I want you all to understand, stress, unfortunately, is a part of life. Because if you're anybody doing anything productive that involves you being responsible for other people or interacting with other people, if you have tasks that take a certain amount of time to complete, anything that takes a certain level of mental gymnastics, you're going to find yourself stressed in some way, shape, or form. Okay? So typically, when I have clients who talk about stress, they're usually coming to me to talk to me about the issues that cause the stress. Most of the time, they're stressed over their relationships, family, personal, the kids. They're stressed over work, family and kids, and financial issues are the top three stressors that people complain about. Their relationships, personal relationships, family relationships, work-related, workplace-related issues, financial issues. Okay? A lot of times, and see, this is where people think counselors always giving advice. We don't give advice. I don't give advice. What I do is I present strategies and I facilitate a therapeutic environment that assists one to utilize those strategies. Okay? Now, K Business just talked about walking. So as a therapist, I may engage in behavioral related or cognitive behavioral strategies such as behavioral simulation, imagery, which is more of a, things that are meditation and things of that sort that can help you relieve stress. I may walk a person through what they're thinking, feeling while they're walking. What are the thoughts going on in your mind? Are you constantly having repetitive thoughts? Are you feeling more at ease? Or maybe clear your head and not think of those things that are stressing you out. And so having a walk can provide that for you. It all depends on the person. And so walking is recommended. I recommend aromatherapy for stress-related issues to a lot of my clients. A lot of my clients don't see lighting scented candles as a means of relaxing. And I've had a lot of positive feedback from clients that talked about, I basically lit several candles in my room. I had the lights dim. I laid in the bed. I relaxed. I inhaled, exhaled for 30 minutes to an hour. That helped me manage my stress. Okay. That's something that I facilitate a lot. I may ask people, I help people practice muscle relaxation, progressive muscle relaxation, deep breathing, progressive, ways of deep breathing, inhaling and exhaling, tensing muscles and releasing, um, doing things like that. I also have recommended, there are several YouTube channels that have meditation music, meditation imagery, music, sound, that giving progressive instruction in a certain manner, that I would recommend you practice as a means of managing your stress. Now, I typically assist clients in coping with stress in two different perspectives. Okay. Um, I may give clinical instruction from a cognitive perspective, meaning I'm focusing on rational, irrational thoughts, feelings. You're processing things that trigger stress, because some of these things can be stemmed from other issues, but we're processing and going through cognitive exercises so that you don't necessarily perceive or process things a certain way that may lead to distress. And then also from a behavioral standpoint, I focus on you actively engaging in certain behaviors to avoid stress, to understand the warning sign, the environment, or to leave the situation if it's becoming too overwhelming for you. One of the biggest things I teach people, if you're in a stressful situation, you don't necessarily have to push your way through it, fight your way through it. It's okay to take a time out, 15 minute time out, go through positive self-talk, deep breathing, muscle relaxation, and go back into that situation. Okay. ASDF states, I have issues with time management and motivation these days. I tend to get easily distracted. I either binge eat or scroll on my phone for hours. Any advice on how to have more self-control? Now, from what you're stating, ASDF, that can be multiple issues. You're talking about time management. You're talking about your motivation. You're talking about easily being distracted. I'm saying that there could be some anxiety, potentially attention. That could potentially be some concentration issues. That could potentially be some emotional related issues that stems from other identifiable stressors that you're not talking about. See, even though you may have issues with time management, your issues with time management may be the fact that you have you're in a state of overhaul because you may have too many things on your plate than you're able to handle. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that there's a difference between being scattered brain and being productive. Okay. Now, the binge eating and things of that sort is only a manifestation of the fact that you're trying to manage the state that you're in because it's uncomfortable. You're emotionally eating. You're not eating because you're hungry. You're eating because you're stress eating. People who are depressed or anxious, they may overeat in that state, or they may not eat because of being in that state. So there are several issues that you may want to address. I'm going to basically recommend ASDF is that you take an inventory of what you do in the day from the time you wake up and the time that you stop at the end of the day, and think about the things that you can easily take off your plate. Because it sounds like to me, from the way you're describing yourself in these situations, you're probably doing way too much. I think that you're probably putting too much on your plate, and you're trying to accomplish so many things in 24 hours. And you may want to use some discernment in how many things you're trying to accomplish in a day. And to be honest with you, a lot of people that I find that are stressed out, they have difficulty saying no to people. They don't understand when to say no. They have a tendency to think that to be Superman, Superwoman, I can do this and I can do that. I want others to think highly of me. Unfortunately, it can be at an emotional or physical expense, because stress can basically present itself in such a way that it can cause health-related issues. People who are stressed, people who have heart attacks, people who have strokes, those are stress-related issues. Those are things that can be contributed to stress. Shout out to Josephine. She said, I had to learn to tell people no. Yes, telling people no. And I want you all to understand, I facilitate a lot of behavioral, cognitive behavioral strategies, a lot of psychodrama, role play, and just strictly helping people learning to create boundaries and say no. That is saying the issue of saying no is highly common in the therapeutic environment for a client. There are so many clients that I have interacted with in the years. They had difficulties telling, they couldn't tell their kids no. They couldn't tell their spouse no. They don't know how to set boundaries with friends and family. They have to, every time somebody wants you to do something, you got to do it. You can't say no. You don't want to let everybody down. You know, everybody looks up to me. Everybody thinks so much of me. And I have to reinforce self-care. Shout out to Sometimes I Get Carried Away. Appreciate you for being here, Queen. So you have to create those boundaries. And a lot of times when I'm dealing with people who are stressed out, those are some of the main issues. Not knowing when to say no, not knowing when to set boundaries, not knowing how to take myself out of those situations, learning not to constantly stack things on your plate when you should be taking things away. Those are definitely things that are usually talked about. My opinion said that was an issue for me. I felt responsible for everything. Folk feelings, happiness side, it can be challenging at times. Yes. And so the issue is that when you're trying to do so many things for everybody else, you're neglecting yourself. I'm not discouraging people from helping other people, but what I am discouraging you from a therapeutic standpoint is that you're not doing it at the expense of your own well-being. Okay? If you can't do it, you can't do it. This is why holidays, birthdays, events, people stress themselves out over enjoyable events because they want to present themselves a certain way. They want everything to be perfect. They want people to see them in a certain way. They want to help this person. They want to help that person. Meanwhile, you have a gazillion things going on in your life, from the time you wake up 7 o'clock in the morning to the time you may go to bed 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And you have to have downtime. You have to understand that I need a break for myself. Who's going to help me? Okay? I have had so many clients who've had psychiatric breaks in the workplace because of the environment being too stressful and overwhelming. Carrie Ann also talked about, like, to go for walks. Going for walks is very common, very simple. And people talk about that all the time. And I just had a previous person that was in here earlier also talked about going for walks. I like going for walks too. I like doing other things. For me, is music is very therapeutic for me. Okay. I like to sing. I like to write music. Just any musical activity, whether I'm playing music, whether I'm listening to music, whether I'm singing, writing, thinking about a musical concept. Hell, I'm gonna be honest. It was therapeutic for me to create the little YouTube hits that I created. Like that whole process, the creative process of me doing that. Many of those projects that I created, I was stressed during the week. I had a lot going on, and I needed an outlet. Music is an outlet for me. Okay, playing with your dog. That's another thing. Pet therapy is an industry standard and a proven to be an effective means of treating clients, helping people manage their mental health. I am not an expert in pet therapy, although I have allowed clients to bring their pets in and into therapy, and I've allowed them to process interacting with their pet and what that does for them. Many of my clients talk about the whole thing of just hugging and touching their pet is soothing and relaxing to them. The fact that when they talk and just engage and interact with their dog, that is soothing just to have a organism there with them that is non-judgmental, that's not talking, not communicating. Is that pet is there, and that pet is attentive, and pets can also see when something can kind of feel and have instincts of things being wrong with their master or the person that's taking care of them. Pets are therapeutic. It's been a long time since I've allowed a client to bring a pet. Usually it's dogs, for the most part. I have had opportunities in which I declined to engage in pet therapy activities and things of that sort. I've actually had to deal with people grieving over their pets in the past, and so I've had to facilitate therapy with people being depressed or having issues because their pet died, and that is a thing, and that is real. That is a real thing. Okay, so pet therapy, having pets can be therapeutic. There are many times that I've actually had to sign documents to allow my clients, particularly those that live in apartment complexes, giving them permission to have a pet without being charged because it's linked to their mental health. And so you'd be surprised the things. I do that for work too. Like there's certain things someone can bring something to work, or having a pet in their home in a facility, in a environment that you're not supposed to have a pet, or you have to pay for it. There are paperwork and things that I've had to write to let them know, to let the other party know that this would be beneficial for my client to have this privilege. TMK Media, shout out to TMK Media, said creating music is a great outlet. I kind of talked about that. ASDF said that can be very helpful to a person to have a therapy animal. Yes, I recommend it. For those who are in the pets, I recommend having a therapy pet, a pet for therapy, for mental health reasons. But you have to be a person that loves pets, and you can't just, if you're a person that's not in the pets, I would not recommend you get a pet for mental health reasons, to help you manage your mental health. But I will recommend for someone who likes pets, who may not have one, to have a pet to help them deal with their issues. Okay, and this is only for maintenance. Okay, and so one of the things that we have to understand is that when we're dealing with people who have issues managing their stress, the bigger issue is that there's an issue with managing life, all hurdles and all expectations of life. Because in many situations, and I'm speaking again, coming back to the cognitive aspects of it, how we perceive ourselves and how we're supposed to function, and putting on that added pressure to ourselves and creating unrealistic goals, and our perception can be rational or irrational, can have a significant effect on how much stress we consume and experience during the day. Because a lot of this can be easily decreased if we just take certain things out of our life or no longer engage or put yourself in certain environments. Okay. My opinion says outside my family and close friends, this is my support system for any issues in this community. Okay. I commonly deal with people who they're just so happy to verbally express and vent their feelings, their thoughts, what's affecting them, how they're going to get over this hump. A lot of problem solving and a lot of problem solving related exercises are implemented. A lot of things dealing with decision making, improving your decision making. In those situations, how it would be beneficial or not beneficial in as you are approaching those issues. Okay. And again, that's what's good for Stephanie may not be good for TMK Media. What may be good for Josephine, it may not be effective for my opinion. And so you got to understand, as a therapist, every client, when I'm seeing people coming in, I could have 5 people today that I would see, total of 5 or more people that I'll have issues with stress. And if you would listen to what I would talk about to help them focus and manage their stress, it could sound totally different. It could be influenced by cultural issues, racial issues, racial related things that can influence that, religion, sex, social economics. Okay. The cultural environment you grew up in can affect that. So it can sound totally different, but they all have the same issue, but the therapy session can sound totally different. And so when I watch YouTube, I do enjoy learning what other therapists are saying online. And then I see people who want to be a therapist and they're calling themselves dating coaches and life coaches, and I'm this. They got these little pseudo terms that they put for themselves and things like that. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a mental health coach. I'm a substance abuse coach, and all of those things. Although I think substance abuse coaching, I know in the state of Texas there is a certification for that. There's not a uniform way of dealing with that. There's no one uniform way of dealing with stress. And I think that in helping people understand that, and for those who are watching, who are searching for answers and they may be stressed and trying to figure out how to make sense of life and things like that, understand that there's no uniform way of dealing with stress. But we have to focus on what works for you. That's most important. What works for you. Okay? And whatever works for you, let's be consistent. Okay? Because consistency determines long-term efficacy. If you are practicing muscle relaxation, deep breathing, imagery, visual imagery, music, if you're doing these things on an ongoing, repetitive manner, it will decrease, hopefully, in all likelihood, decrease your stress long term. But if you're only doing it on an as needed basis, well, as needed is okay, it all depends. But if you're not being consistent, it's not going to help you. TMK Media said my homeboy called himself a life coach and his mama was paying his rent. Okay, now we're making jokes. Also, the use of humor. Humor is a way of dealing with stress. Watching movies. Um, and to be honest, in this generation, in this day and age, watching social media, particularly content that is deemed positive and something that has real value towards yourself as far as having a positive influence, not anything toxic, it can be seen as therapeutic. Unfortunately, in these spaces, there are more toxic environments than actual positive environments. Okay? Then you got people who are deceptive, and you got people who are lying about credentials and operating and saying things that's outside of their education or training, and that's where it gets murky. Okay? So, if there are not any more questions, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close it out for today. When I do my verticals, I don't like to be on too long. I like to do maybe 35 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour at the most. But I do enjoy doing these particular this particular type of content. And cleaning and organizing can be common. Okay. Now, I'm glad you stated that. Now, for some people, cleaning and organizing can be stressful. But for this person, for sometime I get carried away, carry in, it's common and it's relaxing, it's relieving. I know some people that like to some people, getting a massage can be relaxing and calming and soothing. But I know people who actually find a release, and it's relieving to give somebody a massage. Actually, the act of massaging and using their hands and hearing the positive effects of someone enjoying them, helping them relieve tension and so forth. They enjoy giving a massage. Giving a massage is therapeutic to them. It's relieving, it's soothing. Okay? So, but for some people, like cleaning, and like for myself, I'm gonna be honest, cleaning and organizing is not a stress reliever for me. That I don't find that. I find that as just work. But I do know people, and I've actually facilitated therapy for those who enjoy doing cleaning and things like that. The act of actually doing those particular tasks is therapeutic. Okay? So, with that being said, guys, I want to thank you all for being here today. And I got my mods. You all are coming here and so forth. Okay, I got one last question. ASDF. And also ASDF, I would like you to subscribe and share if you can. And to others that are interested in watching my channel. You sound like you're someone who's new to the channel. Definitely would like you to subscribe and share the video. So ASDF said, one last question. Sometimes I self-sabotage. Like I've been trying to lose weight and exercise more, but then yesterday I ate a bunch of fried food. Okay, so what you're talking about right now is more of an impulse-related, decision-making related issue. Now, if you want to say that the stress of losing weight is contributing to you just wanting to eat and trying to manage that the whole weight loss situation itself, that's one thing. But what you're talking about has many layers to it. Okay? It has many layers to it. Because now we have to talk about consistency. We have to talk about creating a routine for yourself, being consistent on a day-to-day basis. Creating resiliency for oneself to not eat, to not be in environments that would intensify your urge to eat. So that there's a lot of things. So um, you self-sabotage because you haven't learned a routine that would limit your urges to eat and do things you shouldn't be doing. So creating a routine for oneself, creating to understand that if I'm in the kitchen, it may trigger me to want this or want that. I shouldn't go to grocery stores or corner stores, or I shouldn't pass by fast food places or places that you know there's food that you would like to eat. I need to focus on certain foods, being in certain environments, not putting yourself in positions where it can trigger you to self-sabotage in your position, eating foods that are not good for you. Okay? So setting that routine. And ASDF says, I think I just ate because I had a lot of time and was bored. I don't think anything really triggered me. Okay. Um maybe not. But the fact of the matter is that when you were in that state of somewhat feeling bored, your mind reverted back to wanting to eat something. Okay? Your mind went to let's eat. So that lets me know that we need to maybe restructure those thoughts, go through what's called cognitive restructuring. But we can restructure those thoughts instead of you thinking about eating. Maybe if I'm going to eat, maybe I eat something that's more um, healthy, or let me engage in a positive activity that does not allow me to just be stationary and eating. Okay. The true issue, ASDF, is that when you were in that state of boredom, you initially went to wanting to eat instead of a more positive or some other more beneficial activity. And that's something that needs to be worked on. Okay. Carrie Ann says, I know D. Durrell changed his diet successfully. He has good advice. Yeah, I did. I did. I stopped eating. To be honest with you guys, and this is the ASDF. Take sugar out of your diet. And that to me is one of the quickest ways. And I don't know, well, for me it was, but for a lot of people, stop eating the snacks. Anything that got sugar, limit your sugar intake. To me, that was the biggest thing for me. It was the hardest, but it was the biggest thing that I had to do, and it had the benefits long term. When I stopped drinking sodas, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, and y'all saw me go. I would go live for years, and you see me with a soda. Y'all would see me. There are many times I went live, and y'all saw me getting food and fast food. You don't see that anymore. You don't see me going get breakfast and getting all kinds of drinks and sweet drinks, sugary drinks, and all kinds of food and snacks and candy and cupcakes and all those. I don't do that anymore. And the reason I don't is because those things are not good for you. And it's not that I don't still eat. I don't drink sodas like that. If I do drink a soda, it's a zero sugar soda. Every now and then I may drink a Coke that has zero sugar in it. And even that is not the most healthiest thing. Okay. So ASDF, I think the biggest issue is that we have to replace those what we call those initial thoughts, those triggering thoughts, those automated thoughts, and I kind of preface the cognitive because I use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. So when we're talking about automated thoughts, those automatic thoughts is to eat, but we can work on replacing that where an automatic thought can be, let me write in my journal. Let me take a walk. Let me play the video game for 20 minutes. Let's do some exercise. Let's listen to music. Let's do aromatherapy. Let me read something or whatever. There's other activities that we can replace that initial thought or that automatic thought of wanting to eat. Okay? So guys, I want to thank you all. It's been a very, very informative very, very, very. I like the interaction. I hope that I've been informative. I just wanted to um, talk about stress. And if you're stressed, let's talk about it. I think that is important because people deal with stress every day. And the biggest issue is that stress related issues can filter into physical health related issues. And that's something we want to uh, minimize or prevent. Now, I also want to let you all know I will be doing another video on what's been coined black fatigue. And I'm going to talk about, from what I've seen, as far as people saying, I'm suffering from black fatigue, and I know this is more of a social media thing, but I'm going to impact that a little bit from a therapist perspective. So with that being said, guys, this is D Durrell with D Durrell Life Solutions. Have a great day.